Good morning. Welcome to the Kingsport News Hour for the third day in the ninth month, 16th year of Cheongi, to Milva sitting in for the second king of Cheongu, Gyeongjaemun. Let's take our sojourn around the kingdom right now in Chongpyeong, Tennessee, 34 degrees and clear, bit of a chilly morning, I guess. Today, high of 64 under mostly sunny skies. Tonight, clear and chilly. Protect vegetation from potential frost, it says. Low of 33. Father's hometown, Cheongju, North Korea, 40 degrees right now and clear. Also 33 degrees for a low tonight. Nothing about vegetation. I wonder if it's because there aren't much. Anyway, tomorrow, sun and areas of high clouds in the morning, mostly cloudy in the afternoon, high of 59. And at the Cheongung Palace in Northeast Pennsylvania, currently 43 and partly cloudy. Getting up to 58 today, breezy with times of clouds and sun. Tonight, clear and low of 37. At the Liberty Rock Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, mostly clear at 56 right now. 87 for a high, partly sunny, breezy and warm. Tonight, breezy this evening. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, low of 65. Suncheon Palace in Korea, 60 and partly cloudy right now. Clear tonight, low of 51. Tomorrow, sunny, partly cloudy, pleasant. High of 73. Wow, nice. And at the Gunma Palaces in Japan, 59 mostly clear right now. 45 for a low tonight, mainly clear and chilly. Tomorrow, sunny to partly cloudy and pleasant. High of 71. Guangzhou in Guangdong Province, China, 70 degrees and cloudy. And that remains 70 degrees through the night. Or let's see, is that the most updated version? 71. Yeah, okay, we have a new version here. Okay. 71 and cloudy right now, mostly cloudy tonight, low of 63. Tomorrow, breezy in the morning, otherwise some sun, then turning cloudy, high of 76. All right, and let's go to, oops. Okay, I gotta go over there to it. All right. Okay. I put the telephone over in the wrong place. All right, here we go. The book on True God, the first book in the Cheonsonggyun. True God, chapter 4. Chapter 4 and section 4. Chapter 4, section 4. Okay. Point 2. God obeys laws. God obeys laws. Yes. And this is an important point about God that some Christians have a trouble with. They'll simply, say, well, God can do anything. Well, perhaps, but God stays within the law. He does not break. If he were to break the law, then that would mean that his creation was imperfect. All right, let's see here. So what kind of a being is God? 우주의 마음 같은 분입니다. He's like the mind, 마음, is mind, heart, I guess here mind. He's like the mind of the universe. 이 우주는 몸 같은 것인데, so this universe is like the body, So it's not the body itself, it's like the body. 그 몸 가운데는 누가 들어가 있느냐 하면 악마가 들어가 있습니다. So if you ask who is in that body, the devil is in that body. The devil. 공중 권세를 잡은 사단이 이 우주를 지배하는 것입니다. So he has taken power and is now he is dominating. He's ruling or dominating the universe. 이걸 소화하기 위해서는 하나님이 어떻게 해야 되냐? So what must God do in order to? Well, Father uses the word digest. Father likes the word digest, 소화, and he's using it here as well. So in order to digest this situation, to deal with this situation, to resolve it, 힘을 가지고 쳐버릴 수 없습니다. He cannot just strike. He cannot just strike with power. 우주의 창조 본질이 사랑이었고, the essence of the creation of the universe was love. 우주의 역사적 전통이 사랑을 통한 것이었기 때문에, and because the historical tradition of the universe is something that is through love, exists through love. So 틀린 자가 있더라도, so even if the wrong person is there, 하나님은 원칙의 자리에 서야 되는 것입니다. God has to stand in the position of the basic principle, the small p principle, right? Not capital P principle, right? So let's say, so God cannot just deal with a situation with power, even though he has power, he has to deal with it through love, because love is the essence of it is the essence of creation. And there. All right, yeah, now we're slowly getting back in. Every time I come back home, I have to sort of reestablish my routine, and it's yes. Anyway, praise God, praise God, praise God. Thank you, Father. Okay. Praise God. All right, now, so things are heating up with regard to Ukraine. President Trump, well, first of all, President Trump has canceled the meeting with Putin. Remember, he was going to meet Putin in Hungary, and that is no longer on the calendar. President Trump is just basically fed up with Putin's dragging his feet and becoming increasingly clear that Putin has no intention of peace. For example, President Trump said, "Okay, well, let's freeze the battle lines where it is, right? Just like they did in Korea in 1953. Let's just say, okay, wherever the front line is right now, that's the border. Okay, that's the border, and we'll sort of work this out over the next, years or decades. We'll work it out somehow." But no, Putin wouldn't take that, wouldn't agree to that, and now President Trump is just fed up, basically, with Putin, and so he is now sort of taking the gloves off, it looks like, and hitting Russian oil giants with sanctions, and also the EU is also coming along with President Trump and banning Russian liquid natural gas. China is complaining, and also India is going to have some problems as well because they've been importing Russian oil. So things are getting hot. So let's take a look at what's happening so that we know what's going on in our world. So President imposes sanctions as his patience wears thin over Moscow's inaction in ending the war in Ukraine. And Trump has imposed sanctions on Russia for the first time since returning to the White House, citing a lack of progress in ceasefire talks to end Moscow's war in Ukraine. The same day, European Union leaders approved their 19th Russian sanctions package. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the sanctions would target Russia's two largest oil companies, Lukoil and Rosneft, due to Russian President Vladimir Putin's refusal to end this senseless war in Ukraine and Moscow's lack of serious commitment to the peace process. Today's actions increase pressure on Russia's energy sector and degrade the Kremlin's ability to raise revenue for its war machine and support its weakened economy, Bessent said in a statement on Wednesday. Russia has a lot of natural resource. Even now, China's been buying that, and India's been buying the oil, and Europe, frankly, has been buying the gas, and now that may be changing. We encourage our allies to join us in and adhere to these sanctions, he said. The measures taken by the Department of Treasury, which also sanctioned dozens of Rosneft and Lukoil subsidiaries, blocked the U.S. assets of the designated firms while preventing Americans from doing business with them. Notably absent from the U.S. sanctions were Chinese and Indian buyers of Russian oil. Trump said on Wednesday that he would raise concerns about China's purchases of Russian oil during his sit-down with President Xi Jinping at the 2025 APEC summit in South Korea next week. The U.S. Treasury Department also said it was prepared to take further action if Russia continues to wage its more than 3-year war in Ukraine. Russia has yet to issue a public response to the U.S. measures. Kremlin-controlled Rosneft is Russia's second largest company in terms of revenue, behind only gas giant Gazprom, but it has been hit hard in recent years by sanctions and falling oil prices. In September, it reported a 68% year-on-year decline in net income for the first half of 2025. Lukoil, Russia's third largest firm and its largest non-state enterprise, also posted a 26.5% fall in profits for 2024, citing increased taxation as Moscow funds its war effort in Ukraine. Last week, the United Kingdom announced its own sanctions against both firms, saying that there was no place for Russia in global markets, and Britain would take all steps to stop Moscow from funding its war in Ukraine. And who is this? Okay. This is Besant. Now is the time to stop the killing and for an immediate ceasefire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And then the sanctions come as Trump's patience with President Putin appears to be wearing thin, with ceasefire talks continuing to make little progress. Speaking to reporters at the White House on Wednesday, after announcing he had postponed his planned meeting with Putin in Hungary, Trump said the timing of the meeting felt off. "We canceled the meeting with President Putin. It just didn't feel right to me," Trump said. "It didn't feel like we were going to get to the place we have to get. So I canceled it, but we'll do it in the future," he said. The U.S. leader said he hoped his sanctions would not need to be in place for long, but expressed growing frustration with stalled truce negotiations. "Every time I speak with Vladimir, they're still on first name basis. Okay, I have a good conversation, and then they don't go anywhere. They just don't go anywhere." All right. And then Washington's sanctions were announced on the same day as the EU said it had also approved its 19th package of sanctions against Moscow over its war with Ukraine, including the EU ban on Russian liquefied natural gas imports. We are very pleased to announce that we have just been notified by the remaining member state that it's now able to lift its reservation on the 19th sanctions package, the Danish rotating presidents of the EU said in a statement. Slovakia had been holding out after the EU agreed on the final text last week, and Prime Minister of Slovakia was seeking assurances from the European Commission on high energy prices and aligning climate targets with the needs of car makers and heavy industries. Okay. New clauses meeting Slovakia's demands were added to the final communique on the new package of sanctions in advance of the EU leaders summit in Brussels on Thursday. A Slovak diplomat told the Reuters news agency a new package will see short-term LNG contracts with Russia end after 6 months, and long-term contracts end from January 1, 2027. So it's not an immediate ban, is it? It's going to take effect gradually. The sanctions also add new travel restrictions on Russian diplomats and list 117 more vessels from Moscow's shadow fleet of clandestine sanctions evading vessels, bringing the total to 558, as well as banks in Kazakhstan and Belarus. And the Zelensky's chief of staff celebrated the package, but said, "We are not stopping. Package number 20 is already in the works." He wrote on Telegram, "The logic is simple. Less money in Russia means fewer missiles in Ukraine," Zelensky's chief of staff said. Okay. But now, here, let's see here. Oh, yeah, here. Now, CNBC is saying that China and India to face supply jolt as U.S. targets Russia oil giants. So even though China and India purchasers were not sanctioned per se, it looks like it's still going to have a big effect on China and India. Let's take a look at that. Rosneft and Lukoil together account for roughly half of Russia's more than 4 million barrels a day of crude oil exports. These are volumes that have found steady homes in Asian markets since the West imposed a $60 price cap in late 2022. Right? A U.S. decision to sanction Russia's two largest oil companies threatens to disrupt the energy lifeline linking Moscow to its biggest customers in Asia, but without causing an immediate supply shock, industry experts told CNBC. So the Treasury Department on Wednesday, okay, we know about that. The government has set November 21 as the deadline for winding down operations, which means companies have nearly a month to wrap up or cancel existing deals with Rosneft and Lukoil. That seems to be designed to avoid causing immediate chaos in the oil markets while applying pressure on Russia, said Bob McNally, president of Rapidan Energy Group. Okay. And this is a graph of crude oil prices this year. So they've spiked sometimes, and we got the black and the blue. What's the difference here? My guess is that, oops, no, it doesn't work. Okay. All right, I guess that, okay. All right, that's the end of that story. Okay. I have mistakenly killed it, so that's about it anyway. Okay. All right, so China fires back at Trump over Russia oil sanctions in Ukraine war. Here, China said it opposes unilateral sanctions without a basis in international law or United Nations Security Council authorization. China is such a I tell you, they ignore the United Nations whenever it's convenient for them, but then they use the United Nations to try to justify themselves whenever they want to. And this is an example of it. As it responded to the Trump administration's latest measures against Russia's two largest oil companies, Lukoil and Rosneft. A Beijing response was given by a spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry at a regular press briefing on Thursday. His remarks were reported by the Global Times, a state-run publication in China, and paraphrased in English. The U.S. Treasury Department sanctioned we got that already. Trump had said China, Russia's key strategic partner and a major purchaser of its oil, could exert greater influence over Kremlin's decision-making on Ukraine. Okay. Oil purchases sustain Moscow's war economy in spite of punishing Western sanctions. Okay. And the spokesman said that dialogue and negotiations are the only feasible ways to resolve the Ukraine crisis rather than coercion and pressure. Well, I don't know. We'll see what President Trump is able to do. And here also, Trump will raise Russia-Ukraine with China's Xi. At a White House meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte on Wednesday, Trump told reporters that he thinks Chinese President Xi Jinping could have a big influence on Russian President Vladimir Putin, and we will certainly be talking about Russia-Ukraine when the two leaders next meet. Okay. Ukrainian President Zelensky thanked Trump for the latest U.S. sanctions on Russian oil. The European Union followed up, okay, with its 19th package, okay. Zelensky said in a Thursday post on X, formerly Twitter, that the sanctions are a clear signal that prolonging the war and spreading terror come at a cost. And this is a fair and absolutely deserved step. It is precisely pressure on Russia that will be effective for achieving peace, and sanctions are one of its key components. I thank POTUS and the entire American team for this resolute and well-targeted decision. It is a strong and much-needed message that aggression will not go unanswered, Zelensky continued. A reliable and lasting peace has no alternative. I thank everyone who understands this and works with us to defend lives and restore justice. But meanwhile, in Moscow, Dmitry Medvedev, of course, he's always the sort of the pit bull, right? We've seen him before, sort of threatening nuclear war and stuff like that. Anyway, he called the U.S. sanctions move and the cancellation of the Trump-Putin summit an act of war against Russia. Okay, that's within his character, that's for sure. Medvedev, a former president and prime minister of Russia, said U.S. is now an enemy and that Moscow could fight on to victory on the battlefield in Ukraine without needing to negotiate an end to the war through diplomacy. All right. Good luck with that. All right. I think President Trump now is getting the idea that he needs to put pressure on Xi Jinping in order to end this war. So we will see what happens when that meeting takes place. Okay. And let's see here. Meanwhile, also, we need to look at this. Putin tests nuclear missiles after Trump meeting collapses. All right, so yeah, things are really popping, aren't they? Vladimir Putin has carried out nuclear missile tests and large-scale drills a day after his summit with Donald Trump was canceled. A Yars intercontinental ballistic missile was test-fired from the Plesetsk launch facility in northwestern Russia. Northwest, so that's the European side, right? Go up towards Finland, I suppose. And a Sinova ICBM was launched by a submarine in the Barents Sea. Okay? Strategic Bomber Forces also took part with Tu-95 aircraft launching long-range cruise missiles, the Kremlin added in a statement. So this is a pretty big thing. Putin insisted that the exercises had been planned in advance, but the exercises took place amid growing tensions with Washington. A show of force comes just a day after the collapse of planned talks between Mr. Trump and Russian President in Budapest to discuss ending the Ukraine war. The U.S. president has previously expressed deep anxiety over the threat of nuclear war, calling it the greatest threat to humanity. The Hungary summit aimed to kickstart negotiations to reach a ceasefire, but was abandoned following a tense call between Rubio and Sergei Lavrov, the two countries' top diplomats. They disagreed over territorial concessions and Western arms deliveries to Kiev, with Zelensky accusing Russia of stalling tactics to prolong the war. On Wednesday, Ukraine's military hit a key Russian chemical plant with British-made long-range Storm Shadow missiles. The Bryansk chemical plant, which produces gunpowder, explosives, and rocket fuel, was hit in a combined missile and air strike. And at a White House meeting on Friday, so that would be last week Friday, right? Because this is still Thursday. On Friday, Mr. Trump indicated he was not ready to supply U.S.-made Tomahawk cruise missiles to Zelensky, a move that could bolster Kiev's long-range strike capability against Russia. However, let's see here. Hopefully, we will be able to end the war without thinking about Tomahawks. Just last month, Trump appeared to take a major shift in his position towards ending the war, saying Kiev could win all of Ukraine back in its original form. Okay, but, yeah, I think Trump missile limitations. There was a story about how, yeah. Okay, yeah. So we also have these stories about how U.S. allows Ukraine to use Western cruise missiles for strikes inside Russia. But Trump calls the Wall Street Journal article on lifting limits on Ukraine's use of long-range missiles fake. Okay, that doesn't mean it's fake. Because listen, lying is part of the negotiating process. Okay, so the fact that the Wall Street Journal published an article, Trump says it's fake. I'm not sure who to believe in that case. Europe lift range restrictions on Ukraine missiles. Why it matters? I think plenty of people are going to believe that the Wall Street Journal is correct, and it may well be the case. Just because Trump says it's fake doesn't mean it's actually not true. Meanwhile, while U.S. restricts, this is August 25, that's 2 months ago. Okay, let's skip that. All right, let's go to, that was May. Okay, that's a long one as well. What is this? Is this a Ukrainian thing? Well, let's look at the Examiner. Let's look at the Examiner. Okay. All right. U.S. allows Ukraine to use Western cruise missiles for strikes into Russia, according to a report. Now, just remember that this is the information that Trump is denying. Okay. But you know something, one thing that politicians like to do is they'll take an article, and if even one small point is wrong, they'll just say, "Ah, this article is wrong," without acknowledging the fact that 99% of the article is actually correct. So that may be the case here. The United States has reportedly removed restrictions on using its targeting data for sites inside Russia. A person familiar with the discussions told the Wall Street Journal that the decision was made before Ukrainian President Zelensky went to the White House to meet with President Trump, where the two had a heated meeting ending in Trump warning that Russia could destroy Ukraine. This means the decision was unrelated to a brief revival and then collapse of Russia-US rapprochement last week, up until Tuesday, when a meeting between Trump and Putin was planned in Budapest, then put on ice. All right. Now the rest of the, they don't want us to, they want us to pay money for the rest of the article. All right. All right. So things are getting very tense now with President Trump now taking the gloves off, and he's pressuring Ukraine on one hand by telling the Ukraine that, hey, if you guys don't basically, you know, quit not while you're ahead, but quit before you actually get wiped off the map, then you're going to get wiped off the map. On the other hand, he's telling Russia that that he's sanctioning their two largest oil companies, and then in a few days he's meeting Xi Jinping, and I'm sure he will have a few choice words for Xi Jinping as well. So yeah, looks like President Trump has some fire under him, and we will see where it leads. We will see. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of a situation where carrot and stick. Carrot didn't work, and so now stick, kind of the stick more aspect, and we'll see what happens. But it could get pretty dangerous. Could get pretty dangerous, but we'll have to see. Okay. All right. Let's see now what else is going on. And the fourth plenum, of course, has actually ended today. It was supposed to end on Thursday, and it's Thursday evening in China right now. So let's see if there's any news on that. Okay. This is South China Morning Post, which unfortunately now is a mouthpiece for the Chinese regime. Now, it's really sad because, you know, South China Morning Post used to be a pretty decent newspaper, but no more. China cautions against raising storms as fourth plenum comes to a close. Central Committee conclave concludes with resolution to face major tests and fulfill long-term plan despite external headwinds. Okay? And Xi Jinping is there. So apparently there was no purge of him. He's still in office. Looks to me like there's been no heart attack, no stroke, no coup, and he's still there. No house arrest, anything like that. They want us to pay money. You guys get your money from Xi Jinping. Come on. All right. Let's see what we can read. Beijing has pledged to make notable progress in pursuing high-quality development and substantially improve its capacity for technological self-reliance and innovation in the next 5 years, as the fourth plenum of the Communist Party's Central Committee came to a close. All right, so that's all that's all they're going to let us read for free. Yes, yeah. You capitalists. Yes, how dare they? How dare they? Is it supposed to be to each according to his need? Well, I need, but you're not giving it to me. You fake communists. Okay, all right. All right. All right, let's see what else we can get here. Personnel changes to watch at key Chinese Communist Party meeting. yesterday. That's a Reuters story, and Reuters is definitely capitalist, so they're not going to let us see very much. Or maybe not. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Okay, yeah, they're going to let us see a bunch of it. All right, let me see here. Personnel changes to watch at key Chinese Communist Party meeting. How do you like that? The communists want money, but the globalists are going to let us read it for free. All right. The elite Central Committee of China's ruling Communist Party will undergo the highest personnel turnover since 2017 during a key meeting this week. Well, this is October 22nd. Well, this is yesterday. After 8 members who were top generals were expelled. So the date is yesterday, but the news is a little bit older than that. Okay. That's why they're letting us see it for free, apparently. Okay. So big turnover. And there's a lot of speculation on just what was going on with all those purges, with those 8 admirals and generals being purged and so forth and so on. And the bottom line, though, is that we really don't know for sure. And remember how I've been saying about how I love North Korea because I can say anything about North Korea and no one can prove me wrong. Well, turns out same is true with China. And some people, I think, for clicks, have been saying all sorts of things. But Xi Jinping certainly looks healthy to me, and I doubt very much that it's a body double. And certainly, they're still going with the meeting with Trump. And if it were a body double, then they would want to cancel that meeting. And they looked like they were going to get a cancellation for a while, but then President Trump thought the better of it and has decided to go on with the meeting. And so we'll see what happens there. I suppose it still could be canceled, but at this late date, not likely, right? So we'll see what happens there, right? And especially that's going to be a pretty high stakes meeting. President Trump apparently had a very heated meeting with Zelensky, although they really put a sort of a good face on it for the press later on, and put out the word that no, it was not heated at all. But I don't think anybody's believing that. And now with Putin, he's coming down hard on Putin. So I expect that he will also come down hard on Xi Jinping. And be interesting to see how Xi Jinping deals with that. Xi Jinping always likes to pretend that he's sort of above the fray, right? He's the what do you say? What was Plato's term? The philosopher king kind of the world, right? So, but we'll see how he deals with President Trump in a few days. Yeah. And that's going to be interesting. I really wish I could be the fly on the wall for that one. But if I were, I wouldn't be able to tell you about it. So I guess it's just as well. Okay. Let's see here. Looks like about all we can get of updated news. Maybe this one. Yeah, okay. Here's another South China Morning Post article about an editorial. Perhaps they will let us see more of this. Yeah, okay. All right, let's take a look at this. Remember, this is propaganda, but we'll read it and kind of try to pick our way through the lines, between the lines. China is preparing to unveil its next 5-year plan, which state media said provided clear direction amid global uncertainty. See that? Yeah, China, is if you want stability, if you want clear direction, China is the place to go. Not Washington, not London, not Paris, not Tokyo, but China. Yes, they are the adult in the room. That's the image that they're trying to portray. And of course, if anybody disagrees with that, then they will kindly accept their organ donations. As China prepares to unveil its next 5-year plan on Thursday, apparently that's going to happen, I guess, well, let's see, Beijing is an hour behind, so it's only 7:30 p.m. there, so I suppose it could still happen there. The mouthpiece of the country's ruling Communist Party has styled the nation's socialist system as a source of strength. that powers the development of the vast Chinese economy and provides stability to the global economy. Ah, yes. Wouldn't we all be so much better, if we just bowed down to the inevitable communist rule, right? That's what they want us to believe. In an editorial published Thursday morning, People's Daily said that China's 5-year plans provided clear direction and predictability amid global uncertainty, with the country estimated to have contributed to about 30% of global growth over the past 5 years. Okay, there we go. Communist Party giving us statistics and numbers, which we know are what? Lies, lies, lies. Formulating and implementing 5-year plans in a scientific and consistent manner has been a key governing experience of the party and one of the core political strengths of socialism with Chinese characteristics, the article said. Oh my. At key moments and critical junctures, the party's central committee is timely. Oh man, I can't stand this. I can't stand this. I can't stand this. Oh my. Okay, let's see if we can. Right. Okay. All right. That's it. That's as far as I can go. Oh boy. Yeah, but but there are plenty of people who actually take that, who actually believe that the communist system is the best. You have a bunch of people, all right? You got a bunch of people who have been thoroughly educated / indoctrinated in Marxism, Leninism, and what do they call it? Let me get this right. Socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new age, or socialism for a new age with Chinese characteristics and Xi Jinping thought. I think that's the official title. So then they get together and they make decisions for everyone, you see? And so it's democratic. It's democratic, yes. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. All right. Boy. Let's find something better here. A medal and another peace deal awaits Trump in Asia. That's the Telegraph. Telegraph usually is pretty good about letting us read their stuff. Let's see what this is about. South Korea is considering dishing out its highest civilian honor. Japan has a plan to park a line of oversized American pickup trucks outside the state guest house. And there's a peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand to be signed. It can mean only one thing. Donald Trump is coming to town. Lee Jae-myung, considering giving Trump its highest civilian honor, I don't know if I can watch that. That is so duplicitous, I would say. Lee Jae-myung is really going to be pretending to suck up to President Trump. Actually, I hope Trump refuses this. Okay, but if he did, then it wouldn't go over very well in the South Korean press. I don't know. If I were him, I would find some way to turn this down. But anyway, the American president is about to embark on a trip through Southeast Asia, sending host governments into a flap as they work out innovative ways to humor their highly unpredictable guest. The stakes could not be higher. Mr. Trump's 3-nation 1-week trip includes a summit with Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader, where both sides will want to calm a trade and tariff war that has put the global economy on edge. There are plenty of real sticking points along the way, said Andrew Yeo, a Korea expert at the Brookings Institution, but there are things that Mr. Trump's hosts can control. The Koreans are even floating the idea of giving Trump an award, the Mugunghwa Award, which is the highest award for service, just to, again, boost his ego that he's a peacemaker, he said. The Grand Order of Mugunghwa is the highest decoration awarded by the government of the Republic of Korea. It is reserved for presidents of South Korea and their spouses, and for foreign presidents who have made major contributions to the nation's security and development. Mr. Trump is expected to fly off to Asia at the end of the week. The White House has yet to issue its official schedule, but Mr. Trump has dropped hints about where he will be. First is Malaysia, where the Association of Southeast Asian Nations summit will be held, followed by Japan. Then it is South Korea, where leaders will be assembling for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, where he is expected to meet Xi. And potentially, they were talking a few days ago about maybe cameo appearance by Kim Jong-un as well, right? But I don't know, maybe he's going to be too busy this time. The schedule is a headache for Trump's hosts. Insiders say the president hates the slow grind of the summit circuit, where he has to sit through hours of meetings. In fact, he will leave South Korea before APEC properly begins. He abandoned the G7 summit in Canada earlier this year without staying a night, and his first term was marked by canceled press conferences and rapid exits from NATO and G7 gatherings. Second time around, hosts have leaned into his transactional approach. The tone was set with the first foreign trip of his second term when he returned from the Middle East in May with hundreds of billions of dollars in investment commitments and arms deals with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. Japan has learned the lesson. The government is trying to buy 100 Ford F-150 pickup trucks for road and dam inspections after Mr. Trump complained Japan did not buy enough American cars. Some officials worry that American vehicles are too big for local roads, so a government order can sidestep public reservations. Josei Akazawa, the country's top trade negotiator, said recently the F-150 is one of Trump's favorites. If the trucks can be delivered in time, there is even a plan to line them up outside the Akasaka Palace State Guest House, where Mr. Trump is expected to stay. Mirera Solis, director of the Center for Asia Policy Studies at the Brookings Institution, a very globalist organization, said it showed how Japan was intent on creating a positive atmosphere around its recent deal to invest $550 billion in the U.S. And if from his window he looks at American trucks lined up in the streets, he's going to be even happier, as she said. I don't know. I think the security is going to tell him to stay away from the windows. They'll probably keep the curtains closed. The first stop, Kuala Lumpur, brings an even more significant prize with the next steps in a peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand. Malaysia may have brokered the ceasefire, but the White House claims credit for ending 5 days of lethal border clashes in July. Mr. Trump says it was his trade pressure that pushed the two sides to agree. Last week, Mohammed Hassan, Malaysia's foreign minister, said during the summit, we hope to see the signing of a declaration known as the Kuala Lumpur Accord between these two neighbors to ensure peace and a lasting ceasefire. Regional experts say the declaration will effectively be a rubber stamping of the existing ceasefire agreement. That rubber stamping will come in the form of a presidential autograph signed by a Sharpie, plus a chance for Mr. Trump to make another claim for the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. Well, Telegraph is supposed to be conservative, but obviously they are not too friendly with President Trump. Yeah. All right, so then, okay, that is happening then, starting the end of this week, or probably, I think, tomorrow. Gold's been going up and down wildly, so. And state of emergency in Peru, right? That's Associated Press. So things are really popping all over the place. This is a video, so I don't want to show it. I got one copyright claim on one of the videos one of the King's Report videos recently, so I want to be careful. Let's see here, why China's economy might be weaker than you think. Okay. All right. That's that. Let's take a look at the Epoch Times. CCP promotes a veteran political commissar to top military post. Okay, well, it looks like something that's interesting. Unlike his predecessor, the newly appointed Jiang Zemin doesn't belong to party leader Xi Jinping's inner circle. Interesting. The Chinese military chief anti-corruption enforcer has risen to become the country's second most senior uniformed officer, filling a vacancy created by the disappearance and removal of a top general who was seen as a close ally of the party's top leader, Xi Jinping. General Zhang Shengmin, a veteran political commissar, has been officially promoted to the second-ranked vice chairman of the Central Military Committee, the party agency that controls the armed forces. The appointment was announced at the end of the four-day closed-door meeting of the Central Committee, which gathers more than 300. Changes to the Central Committee's membership are also approved at such a gathering. And the promotion of Zhang came just days after the Chinese leadership expelled his predecessor, Ho Weidong, along with 8 other high-ranking generals. Right? And so we'll see. This is a developing story, it says, and will be updated. Well, let's look forward to that update. But it looks like Xi Jinping, though, is still there. We'll see what happens to him over the next months. And see here, and of course the ICE, the ICE thing and immigration thing in New York or in Portland and in Chicago and other places, and really getting pretty tense. Pretty tense. Okay. Kitchen cabinet industry could be revived by Trump tariffs. Okay. Yeah, that I'm not going to cover this, but the theft at the Louvre Museum, that was quite something. Huh? That's what they make. That's what they make movies out of. Okay, Trump hopes for a deal on everything in China talks. Let's take a look at this one. Trump hopes for a deal on everything in China talks. He also wanted to talk with the Chinese leader about how to end the war in Ukraine, whether it's through oil or energy or anything else. Anything else, huh? President Trump expressed optimism on Wednesday about securing deals with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on issues ranging from soybeans to rare earths and limiting nuclear weapons during the scheduled talks next week in South Korea. Yeah, China's soybean orders to America apparently have fallen to 0 this year. They usually take quite a large share of the U.S. crop. They're not taking anything this year, and so the soybean farmers are really in a tough way. And I think President Trump is trying to find ways to help them. I think we'll make a deal, Trump told reporters gathered at the Oval Office for a visit by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. We'll make a deal on, I think, everything. We'll have a pretty long meeting. We have a pretty long meeting scheduled. We can work out a lot of our questions and our doubts and our tremendous assets together. So we look forward to that. Trump said he believes Xi now wants to end the war in Ukraine and that the Chinese leader would be receptive to such a discussion. Because of Biden and Obama, they got forced together, Trump said of China and Russia. They should never have been forced together, but by nature, they can't be friendly. I hope they are friendly, frankly, but they can't be. What? I hope they are friendly, frankly. What? But they can't be. Let's try that again. They should never have been forced together. That's China and Russia. But by nature, they can't be friendly. I hope they are friendly, frankly, but they can't be. Okay, well, whatever. Okay. Biden did that and Obama did that. They forced them together because of energy, because of oil, Trump said, noting that was one of the issues he planned to discuss with Xi. Okay. So I suppose he's going to say, okay, listen, you stop importing oil from Russia and we'll sell our oil to you at maybe at the same price. I don't know. We'll see what they come up with. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's go to Breitbart now. Zohran Mamdani, the real leader of the Democrat Party, Chuck Schumer working for him. Well, The election now is very close now. It's about, what is it now? Less than 2 weeks, is it? See, this is Thursday. So if it's going to be on the first Tuesday of November, then yeah, it's less than 2 weeks away. That's the New York New York mayoral race. And it looks like Zoran Mamdani is going to win, this Marxist Muslim, which is a contradiction in terms, because Muslims or Islam and Marxists hate each other, not the least because Marxism says that religion is the opiate of the people. But somehow, somehow they managed to put these together. Okay, well, I guess they have their way. And real leader of the Democratic Party, okay. And here, Senator Tim Shia says that. So I guess what is AOC no longer the leader of the Democratic Party? Let's see here. And also, President Trump now has expanded his war against narco terrorists to the Pacific Ocean, not just the Caribbean. And so he struck, or the military under his direction struck a boat that was coming towards the United States in the Pacific. In a dramatic escalation of Trump administration's maritime war on narco terrorism, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced the first lethal military strike outside of the Caribbean Sea, targeting and destroying a drug smuggling vessel off Colombia's Pacific coast. Hegseth announced the 8th strike against a narco-terrorist drug smuggling vessel on Wednesday. The military strike that destroyed the boat and killed 2 on board is the first to be conducted outside the Caribbean Sea area of operations. And we'll see what happens here. But again, I keep saying, you got to deal with the demand side. Deal with the demand side. Right? Strengthen the family, strengthen the ability of parents to hand down their values to children. Right? John Brennan, who is a world-class charlatan, claims MAGA base is being hoodwinked by world-class charlatan Trump. Brennan, is oh, come on now, forbidden. It's the VPN again. Okay. Brennan is if I could have, if God were to give me the ability to send one man to hell, it would be John Brennan. Okay. He's not going to do that. God's not going to do that. But if he did, all right, if he did, it would be John Brennan. Yeah. This guy is really, really a bad man. Really, really evil man. Okay. So, now he's saying that the MAGA base is being hoodwinked. He's a pathological liar as well. Yeah, and so, well, anyway, we'll see what happens to him. Yeah, okay. Over 650 rabbis signed letter opposing Mamdani. Yes, let's see if they'll let us read this one. It looks like they will. Okay. So they're saying Mamdani would endanger the safety and dignity of Jews in every city, citing his refusal to condemn globalize the Intifada, denial of Israel's legitimacy and genocide claims, according to a letter published by the Jewish majority. And we'll see how the Jewish vote goes then on election day. Okay. And military families left in limbo as Schumer shutdown rages on. Some people are speculating that the shutdown may continue for another month until Thanksgiving. And let me share these with you. Okay, Tom Cotton urges DHS audit of high-risk Biden-era visas after arrest of Hamas terrorist. Can we look at this one? Okay. Tom Cotton, a senator from Arkansas, Republican, the Senate Republican Conference chair and a senior member of the Armed Services Committee, called on the Department of Homeland Security to audit every visa approved under the Biden administration for applicants from high-risk countries, warning that Biden's vetting policy allowed dangerous individuals tied to terrorist groups to enter the United States. Okay. And following the indictment of Mahmoud Amin, the long name, a 33-year-old Gaza national living in Louisiana, accused of taking part in the October 7th Hamas-led massacre in southern Israel before entering the United States on a fraudulent visa. Cotton wrote in a letter that the case highlighted the extreme danger posed by the previous administration's policies, referencing Justice Department filings that identify this man as a Hamas operative tied to the assault. Despite blatant evidence of these activities on his social media, the Biden administration approved his application, granting him legal permanent resident status and entry into the United States. Legal permanent, that means a green card. He was given a green card. The letter stated that the vetting process overlooked easily accessible evidence of his terrorist ties. Arkansas Senator warned that the incident underscores a broader failure in the system. Since October 7, 2023, thousands of visa applications from Palestinians have been processed through Egypt, often without adequate review of digital footprints or terrorist watch list cross-checks, he wrote, cautioning that such lapses could mean other terrorists have already entered the country under Biden-era approvals. Cotton called on DHS to conduct an audit of all visas issued through high-risk countries since 2021, prioritizing potential affiliations with Hamas or other designated terrorist groups, and to implement enhanced social media monitoring for the visa applicants from high-risk regions, along with mandatory real-time FBI watch list checks to ensure no terrorist slips through undetected. The safety of Arkansans and all Americans depends on reversing the damage done by Biden's open border policy. Records show he arrived at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport on September 12, 2024, and later lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, before relocating to Lafayette, Louisiana, where he was arrested. He faces charges of providing material support to a foreign terrorist organization and making false statements in the immigration process, and remains in custody pending proceedings. All right. So at least he's in custody, but we don't know how many others like him are out there still running around doing their thing. So things are getting pretty tense in America, and it almost seems like it's never, well, we have to be careful because the situation on the ground is rarely as bad as the media makes it appear. So we do have to be careful, but it does, at least it appears pretty bad right now in America. Let's see here. Democrats claim U.S. slipping into fascism. Right. Fascism is when you use force to get to gain political power, which is what the Democrats have been doing, right, with Antifa and with these riots, so forth. Late-term abortion clinic expected to open in New Jersey. So yeah, but Democrats understand that they're losing, and so they are really going all out and taking the low road, to say the least, and trying to see if they can inspire enough radicals to somehow sort of create so much social chaos that Well, what is it that they're working toward? Are they trying to work toward canceling next year's midterm election? I don't think so, but I think they're trying to get a response out of the conservatives, uh, out of President Trump or out of the conservatives. But the conservatives don't do that, do they? I mean, when the when something happens that the left doesn't like, then they start burning down people's businesses and rioting in the streets and doing their fiery but largely peaceful demonstrations that CNN likes to cover. But the conservatives don't do that kind of thing, so they have a problem on their hands. But I think they are trying to get some kind of reaction out of conservatives. So let's stay away from large crowds, please. Continue to do that, and even more so, stay away from large crowds. Don't go to the World Series. I'm sorry, but don't go to the World Series. Don't go to the Super Bowl, and don't go to these. Stay away from these large crowds that are being formed on weekends for various reasons. All right, gotta go. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless, Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.